Welcome back to the Axle. My name is Andrew. We're here after your how to assemble your axle video. We want to talk a little bit about the axle itself and a little bit about the parameters of the bar. So the axle is an 11-pound bar, ultra light, and weighs virtually nothing for all intents and purposes. The bar is designed to be something that is a beginner and starting point, but can be loaded with extra weights on either side of it to accommodate more advanced users. When we're looking at the bar, we're seeing a few different things. In that the bar stands 11 inches off of the ground, it weighs 11 pounds, and it is 48 inches at the wheelbase. When we look at the bar, we're using it in a few different aspects. It gives us parameters and markers for where our feet should be if we're standing in a V, which we'll see in a moment during some of our assessment exercises. It also can be used as a hurdle if we're doing stepping exercises as an evaluation. And it can also be used without the wheels entirely. So if we need less weight, and if we feel that the wheels add too much of a challenge to the exercises, simply use the bar as a dowel and perform your movement assessment accordingly. Now that you've assembled your axle, we're going to be working on what we call the axle assessment, which doubly functions as a dynamic warm-up before you start to exercise. The goal here is to take all the joints in your body through their major ranges of motion and start to stretch and promote flexibility and prep the body for movement. For the purpose of the dynamic warm-up, we actually don't need the foot straps on the bar, so I'm going to go ahead and remove them. And we'll focus on the axle as just the tool and the bar itself. Some of this we will use with the bar loaded and unloaded. The first thing that we want to do is stand nice and wide with the feet approximately at either wheel. And what you start to see is this is our standing V position, and we're feeling a little bit of a stretch in the inner thigh. At this point, we're going to bow forward and grip the bar with our right hand. I'm going to walk around. As we start to lift the left hand all the way up to the ceiling, you want to make sure that these legs are nice and straight and locked out at the knees to promote the flexibility through the inner thigh. We'll reach all the way up to the top, noting one side to the other, and then bring the left hand back down to the bar. The right hand now rotates upwards to the ceiling, and what we're seeing is some rotation throughout the spine, particularly in the thoracic spine as well as the lumbar. We can bring the hand back down. And we'll do one more on each side, but you'll do this for a total of 3 repetitions on each side, starting to extend the knees and straighten the legs just a little bit more with each repetition. The next exercise, we're going to remain in the standing V position, and we're going to start working into a lateral lunge. We'll keep our feet slightly turned outwards to make sure that we have a stable base as we sit into one side of the body. So we're going to drop down into our heel, keeping this opposite leg straight, lifting the toe up, and then shifting to the other side. Again, this is a stretch for the inner thigh on either side of the body. We rise back up. You can keep your hands moving forward, and if they need to touch down to the wheel for stability, that's fine. Rise back up. Make sure that you're taking note of your body as you shift from one side to the other. And if there's a major difference, you may want to use a mirror to see the angles of the hips as they are maybe slightly different from one side and then the opposite. For the lateral lunge, we're going to do 3 repetitions on each side. The next exercise we're going to work on is called a figure 4 squat. You're going to stand directly behind the center of your axle. Left foot remains down to the ground. Your right foot's going to cross so that the ankle rests directly above the knee. We'll start to slowly sit back into the heel, and you'll see that your balance and flexibility are both challenged at the same time. We'll rise back up. We'll continue for 3 repetitions on this leg. If you need to reach down and touch your wheels for stability, it's fine. The goal for each one of your reps is to sit a little deeper into the heel to promote the flexibility on one leg. You want to perform 3 reps on each side, and then we'll move along to the next exercise. Following exercise. And just for viewing purposes, I'm going to stand to the side. They will continue to stand straight. We'll start in a hip hinge position. So minimal knee bending. We want to call this a soft knee with the back flat. Index fingers will go in the rings of the axle. And you may stand slightly closer than you ordinarily would. We're going to start by lifting the back leg and keeping the back flat as you raise the foot into the air and push away behind you. You'll bring that leg down and alternate sides. A few things we want to look for here is a flat back throughout the entirety of the exercise. You can alternate legs once again. And again, you may notice a flexibility difference and a mobility difference from one hip to the other, particularly in the back of the leg. The other thing is we want to make sure to maintain a tight core, so the entirety of your core should be engaged throughout this exercise. 3 reps on each side, and then rising back up. The next exercise in this assessment is our frog stretch. In the frog stretch, we want to sit back into the heel and practice a deep squat. The axle is forward of the body to give us extra support, so that we can sit back further into the heel and stretch along the inner thigh. If we need to, we can grip the insides of the wheels for an additional stretch. The elbows should be pressing gently against where approximately the knee is to open up the inner thigh and the adductor groups. Chest to remain up high to deepen the stretch. This is not an exercise that we're going to be performing for repetitions, but holding for a deep count of 15 seconds. Once we're finished, we'll rise back up to the top. The next exercise we're going to perform, we're actually going to pick up the axle. Widen the hands all the way to the wheelbase and lift the bar overhead. As we lift overhead, and I will turn to the side so that you can see the angle of the shoulder, we want to slightly bow forward at the waist. Not everyone will be able to reach the wheelbase of the axle. If your shoulders are more narrow, you'll be holding a little bit closer to center. Bow forward at the waist. Press the knuckles to the ceiling to feel a deep stretch through the shoulder and the deltoid. Try to relax the muscles in the neck so that you don't feel pressure anywhere in the cervical spine. Continue to bow forward for a slightly deeper stretch throughout the chest. Similar to the frog stretch, we're going to hold this for 15 seconds until we feel a nice stretching sensation through the chest. The next exercise in the assessment is the overhead squat. In the overhead position from before, similar to the chest stretch. Feet should be shoulder width or slightly wider, and feet can be slightly outwards if needed. We'll maintain our overhead position and brace in the core, squeezing tightly. The next step is to slowly lower the hips all the way down into a deep squat, and then rise back up. We'll perform this for 4 slow repetitions. We want to maintain a tight core so that we are straight up and down, watching for the knuckles to remain to the ceiling. The tendency is for the bar to start to shift forward in front of the shoulders. So we want to maintain that the bar is directly above the crown of the head for those slow repetitions. If you feel any fatigue in your shoulder, you can bring the bar forward to rest. 4 slow and controlled repetitions for the overhead squat. The next exercise in your axle assessment, we just finished the overhead squat, is to bring the bar down in what we call an atlas position. The hands should go on top of the wheels if comfortable, and if you have the mobility in the shoulders. This is going to be a reverse lunge. So we'll step back in a linear progression, rising back up to the top. You will alternate legs, performing 3 repetitions on each side. This is a strength and balance exercise. You may or may not touch the knee at the base of the exercise. If you feel any pain, rise back up and modify the exercise for less depth as you stretch. One important note as you're doing this is to squeeze the base glute, which means the back glute, at the base of the exercise for a gentle stretch in the hip flexor. This is a hip opening exercise and one of the exercises we'll practice during the regular workout. Perform 3 repetitions on each side and bring the axle back forward. The last exercise in the axle assessment evaluates core bracing. We'll start with the knees on the ground, and if you need to secure a fitness mat or a yoga mat underneath you to protect your knee, we certainly advise that. The first exercise is called a kneeling rollout, and this is one of 3 in a progression. We'll be taking the bar and we'll roll slowly forward until the bar is directly underneath the nose and pull back up to the top. As we roll forward, we'll immediately start to feel the bracing effect throughout the front side of the core. Directly down the midline will be activated. We'll do another repetition here as we become more comfortable with the kneeling rollout. Next, we'll take the apex of the kneeling rollout, finishing all the way out and holding. The knuckles should press to the floor, and we'll rise the knees up into a plank. The goal here is to maintain a neutral spine, while the knuckles and the shoulders and the elbows stabilize us. So we should maintain a slight curvature in the lumbar spine as if we were standing up, and it not encouraging to round it all at the back. Holding there. Once we are feeling the tension throughout the core, we can drop the knees back down to the ground and roll back up towards the midline of the body. The last exercise we will perform begins in a standing position. And we're slowly going to roll the bar out into a secure plank, bracing throughout the core as we move forward. This is the most advanced of the 3 exercises, and we'll feel strong bracing down the midline of the core. Slowly pull the bar back up to center, and we'll perform 3 repetitions. This is also known as a standing rollout. We'll try that again. Pull back. Last repetition. Come back. Make sure that the knuckles are pressed firmly to the ground for any discomfort in the wrist, and brace in the core while you pull back to center. Everybody finished? That completes the axle assessment. The goal is to evaluate the mobility through the ankles, knees, hips, spine, and shoulders.